Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Everybody's doing well on this Wednesday evening. And tonight we are here to preview and talk about week 1 and week 2 of the NFL season. Lots of storylines, lots of great games to talk about this weekend. But making his return to the podcast by popular demand is my good buddy, Ben Murray. Ben, so great to have you back on the pod, man.
What's up, Jug? I appreciate you having me back on because that means football is back, which is always good. But I want who's requesting me back by popular demand. I don't know about that, but
Me.
appreciate it.
I like having these conversations with you. So I actually heard from multiple people they really liked you last season. So I'm telling you, they like your insight.
I'll try to live up to the hype yet again. No promises, though.
Before we get to the NFL, you got your Michigan State Spartans shirt on. They head to I believe they're in Miami this weekend. They haven't exactly looked great after 2 weeks. How do you feel about your Spartans beating a ranked team this coming weekend?
Man, you asked me 2 weeks ago, the beginning of the season, I would have said no chance. But you asked me right now, I think we're looking good. The Michigan State offense hasn't looked competent in like 10 years, literally since like Kirk Cousins days, maybe Connor Cook, but they look good this year. They brought in a transfer running back, Kenneth Walker, who's an absolute stud and just running over teams. So I know we haven't played the best. We played Northwestern week 1. We dominated them, which is an okay win. Then an FBS team last week, but I like our chances going into Sunday. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, it should be there's a few good games. You got Florida playing Alabama this weekend. That one should be good. The Auburn, Penn State is also a sneaky good game. But yeah, I really like the Pac-12 teams getting wins early in this. Seeing UCLA turn it around. Oregon beat the Ohio State. It's been an interesting start to the college football season.
It's cool to see Chip Kelly finally doing his thing back out west. It's been, I almost forgot he was the UCLA coach. You kind of forgot about him for a while, but yeah, they're back on the map. Oregon, the big upset last week. And yeah, the Penn State game, I'm excited for it. I think it's their whiteout game, which is a huge bucket list item for me. That looks like one of the best atmospheres in sports, really, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. That stadium just looks awesome to watch a game. As much as Michigan stinks, the Big House is another one on the my bucket list. And seeing Ohio State on Saturday, that stadium can rock too, but it's even funner watching them lose. Speaking of atmosphere, Monday night was the first game at Allegiant Stadium with fans for the Las Vegas Raiders. They welcomed in Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, and they win an absolutely thrilling game in overtime it looked like Baltimore should have won the game 3 different times and end up losing it. What did you make of Lamar and the way that game played out?
You mentioned the word thrilling, which is weird because through the first quarter and the first half, the game was honestly anything but thrilling, which was interesting. Like there was a point where I'm like, well, I might go to bed because this just really isn't that entertaining. And I'm glad, obviously, I stayed up because, like you said, it did become thrilling. Maybe not the best of football, but it was certainly entertaining from a viewership standpoint. Lamar. Man, with him, it's like you give a little, you take a little, because he'll make amazing plays like he did on, I think it was the one touchdown pass where he's sitting in the pocket, dancing around guys left, right, and center and finished it off nicely. But then, like you said, he can't hold on to the ball all of a sudden. You hit the guy and all of a sudden that turnover in overtime, like that's just inexcusable. You can't let that happen, especially after you were basically gift wrapped an opportunity to win the game. Shout out Vegas, shout out Derek Carr and the boys. But yeah, I think it is becoming a concern, Lamar and the turnover problems, especially when obviously the depth in their running backs is becoming a little dicey. I know it was Tyson Williams, he looked okay. Latavius Murray wasn't great. So Lamar's got to do more this year. And can he do it? Can he take that on his shoulders? I don't know. I do think the turnovers are a bit of a concern, and obviously his arm has always been a bit of a concern. And so I don't know. We'll see how it progresses, I guess.
Yeah, what worries me is he misses like routine throws. Like there's times he makes incredible ones and it's like a little check down and he misses the guy. And I'm like, you just can't. And then in the NFL, you can't miss that throw. And I totally agree on the fumble 3 times in the game. And I don't know if you notice this, but he tries to switch hands when he's running, which I don't understand why he's doing that. Like put 2 hands on the ball and protect it. I mean, that's just, one basic football 101. And he's a guy I want to love him because I love what he's so fun to watch. I mean, him just running, like you said, running around, just breaking down plays. But then he's so frustrating at the same time. But I look at their team and I said, like you said, they don't have a great running attack. Their defense, Wink Martindale's got to change that because he doesn't have the people to play that defense. And then Benny, the offensive line was just manhandled on Monday night, and credit Vegas, but also that's a real problem for Baltimore moving forward.
No, absolutely. And at this point, I think Baltimore is by far the 3rd best team in the division. And if you really want to go out on a limb, you can maybe make an argument that Cincinnati is even better at this point. Yeah, I'm very concerned about Baltimore. Like you said, the offensive line looked terrible. The defense is they're all right. They're nothing, like I wouldn't call them elite by any means. So I don't think, and it's tough. You got the stud quarterback who's young. But like, yeah, I mean, you put it perfectly. He's missing those checkdowns that turn, make it 2nd and 10 when it should be 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4. And that's the difference. You put him behind the sticks where he's having to force the ball downfield. And that's, at least at this point in Lamar's career, he's just not the type of QB that can start forcing the ball downfield when he has to.
Right. And yeah, so to you, who's number 1 in that division?
I'm on the Cleveland train this year. I mean, they should have won Sunday. That was tough, but I still think their defense is really good. I love the offense. I think Chubb is one of the best in the game, and Baker, I don't think he'll ever be like in that top tier of QBs, but I do think he's in that next tier where he's good enough to win ball games and take you deep into the playoffs. I don't think, like, I'm not going to say they're going to win the conference by any means, I don't think, but I do like Cleveland to win that division. Pittsburgh, I feel like they're still solid, and as long as they have Big Ben, I don't know how he's still doing it, but as long as he's still around, he's competent somehow. I don't know how he is, but he's still kicking it. But I like Cleveland to win that division.
Yeah, I agree. I like Cleveland a lot, actually. And I'm also disappointed, like you, that they should have won that game and they threw it away. But that's another learning lesson. Hopefully they learn to close games moving forward. But Baltimore, I agree with you. They're behind Pittsburgh right now. I'll be interested to see those 2 teams play because Pittsburgh really didn't play great against Buffalo. Buffalo was just so terrible in the second half. But Baltimore goes from losing Monday Night Football, and now they have Kansas City Sunday night, who Kansas City's the gold standard in the AFC right now. When you play them, it's a measuring stick game. Lamar has never beaten Mahomes in his career. He's 0-3. Do you think this game could get ugly quick for Baltimore?
I do. Based on what we saw Sunday, I absolutely do. And it's so true, Cam, with what you said about Kansas City being the gold standard. Like every year, I feel like you hear all these talk shows, they're talking about how, Buffalo's going to win the conference. Cleveland's going to win the conference. I'm like, until somebody beats Kansas City, like, I don't know how you can bet against them because they are that gold standard. So I think Kansas City's going to come out with something to prove on Sunday night. Obviously, they won this past week, but it wasn't really convincing fashion, and I don't think they looked that great. So I think they'll have something to prove Sunday night. And the Ravens, I mean, unless they change something significantly, I think it could get ugly quick.
Yeah, Lamar's going to have the game of his life. And he can't run 12 times a game all season because he's going to get hurt or something's going to happen. They need to find a running attack. They need to do more to help him. On the other side, you got Vegas. Like you said, in the first half, they were lifeless. Derek Carr would only throw the ball to Darren Waller. I think he had 12 targets in the first half, only like 5 catches. But the second half, Brian Edwards emerged a little bit. He started to spread it out. The offense was clicking. Vegas, they've been a disappointment since John Gruden returned, but did you see anything from week one that would make you think this team potentially can go on the rise this year?
To answer it quickly, no. There's an old saying I like to live by: never trust Derek Carr. And I know he played well in the second half, and even that the interception in overtime wasn't a great throw, but I think the receiver should have made a play on it. But still, as soon as that happened, I'm like, Derek Carr, don't trust him. You can't trust the Raiders and Derek Carr. And I still don't have a lot of faith in them. Like you said, the D line looked good. They were getting pressure, but how much is that? They have some beasts. I know Max Crosby and Nassib, they look good. So I don't think that was a fluke by any means. But with Derek Carr back there until I see him do it consistently week in and week out, because we've seen this in the past where they look like they beat Kansas City last year and we're like, wow, this team's pretty good. And then the next week they come out and lay an egg. So it's like you don't really know which Raiders you're going to get week in and week out until I see a little consistency. I can't put any faith in them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you're actually being a good analyst on Overreaction Monday, which people like to do. I agree. I did like their D-line play. Like I said, Max Crosby, he's a beast. I mean, Villanueva is like Taylor Lewan. Like he should go reevaluate life and what he's doing. But I liked him. You mentioned Carl Nassib, who made the play in overtime that essentially won them the game. But yeah, I like Derek Carr more than you. Maybe it's just as I want him to do well because people pick on him, but I think he's an average quarterback. I think Baker is better than him. Obviously Lamar is won an MVP, but I'd see him. He's in like the Kirk Cousins range, but I would rather have Derek Carr than Kirk Cousins personally.
See, I'm biased on that because of where Cousins went to school, so I got to go with my boy. But no, I think that's an absolutely fair assessment to put him in that category. And I mean, he has all the tools from what I've seen to put it together, but it's just that consistency that we really haven't seen throughout his career yet.
Yeah, no, true. And so would you rather have Jameis or Derek Carr?
I mean, Jameis with the LASIK surgery, man, he's good. Like he hasn't been bad since the surgery. So I don't know. I might, and that efficiency, that 5 touchdowns on what was it, like 150 yards or something like that. Yeah. That's a tough question though, because I don't even know who to pick. Who would you pick between those two?
Yeah. I like Sean Payton more than I like John Gruden. So that points in Jameis's favor. I think Jameis has a better arm, definitely. But I would probably pick Carr just because there's something about him. I don't know. Maybe I think his teammates really like him. And Jameis in the past, I don't think he's really been that well liked. He's obviously had his issues at Florida State. But I just think this division is going to be tougher than expected. I think Denver, Teddy Bridgewater is a good quarterback. If Denver had Aaron Rodgers other than week 1 this year, if they had, a normal, an elite guy, I think they're a Super Bowl team. Their roster's loaded. I think Vegas is pretty good. Obviously the Chargers, Justin Herbert and that team going to Washington, get a win. I think this division will be more competitive and see maybe 2 playoff teams this year rather than the usual 1 that we're accustomed to.
No, I agree. And especially with the expanded playoffs that started last year, for sure, with that division. Denver, they did look good. And with Von Miller back, I was interested to see how he would look coming off the injury, but I think he had at least 1 sack, I know. So he looked good, and that defense is really good. So like you said, if Teddy Two Gloves can put it together. And I mean, he's always kind of been that reliable. He'll hold on to the ball. He won't turn it over. He's not going to do anything dynamic, but I kind of agree. I don't mind Denver as a sneak into a wild card position.
Yeah. Check down Teddy. But that worked for a few quarterbacks for a long time. Vegas versus the Steelers on Sunday in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh heading back for their home opener. Who do you like in that game?
This is one where it's honestly a toss-up to me, where I got to ride with the home team, especially Pittsburgh. Right. Like they have the good crowd, the terrible towel. They'll be back in full force. So I like Pittsburgh in that, but it is a close one. Like, what's the spread on that? Like maybe 2.5 for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'll look that up because I don't think it'll be big. I agree. I think that number's fair. I don't think it'll be any more than that because, they're not exactly world beaters, the Steelers. Let's see here, the Steelers.
But I mean, like if Vegas can come out and beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, they're gonna absolutely turn some heads, including myself. Where
right,
all of a sudden we're starting to maybe believe in what they have going and drink Gruden's Kool-Aid down there.
Yeah, he will definitely. That $10 million won't be as crazy.
You mentioned the stadium. That was the first time playing in front of fans there. That's a nice looking stadium. But did you see the clip of Gruden when he walked out to the fans? Like it looked like he was almost holding back tears. He was so excited. I'm like,
he was having a good time. That's for sure. Yeah. So it's Pittsburgh 5.5.
Oh, wow. That's bigger than I would have expected.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's a big number. I might take the Raiders to cover. I think Steelers could still win, but I think it could be a field goal game.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like a field goal either way, come down to the wire, sort of like it did on Monday night.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a good 2:00 game on Sunday, and you got Sunday Night Football, Baltimore, Kansas City from the two teams we just talked about. We talked about before we went on the air. I like you because you got your teams vary. You got the Michigan State Spartans. You're a Columbus Blue Jackets fan. You got your Canada. You got your Raptors and Blue Jays. But you love the New England Patriots. And for the longest time, you were riding high for almost 20 years. You had Tom Brady and the genius coach. Last year, you went to Cam Newton. You went 7-9 with a pretty bad roster. I thought that was a really good season, looking back at it. But in training camp, you pivot to Mac Jones. You got him with the 15th overall pick in the draft out of Alabama. And now week 1, we'll talk about the result, but what did you make of just his play before we get into the Fish getting the victory?
Man, I got to pump the brakes a little on Mac Jones. I was watching that game Sunday, and like I don't watch preseason. I just can't get into it at all. So this is my first time really watching Mac in a Pats uniform. And like I said, I got to pump the brakes because there were a few too many times where I was drawing some comparisons to a certain man who used to play quarterback in New England. I'm like, well, that's maybe a bit early for that. But for a debut, I know obviously the result didn't turn out great thanks to a couple bad turnovers and bad penalties throughout the game. But as for Mac's performance, I thought he looked fantastic. He made a couple of great throws. I think there was a wheel route he threw to James White. I think it was down the sideline. It was a beautiful throw, and a couple good third down conversions. He looked poised in the pocket. Like I was more than happy with what I saw from Mac Jones. Obviously the results suck, but I think we're looking good at the QB spot.
Yeah, he absolutely looked ready. He didn't look scared, and he doesn't have to launch it down the field. Brady in his first few years didn't. It was defense and don't turn the ball over, great special teams. And I think that's what you got to look at. You had a Damian Harris fumble, which really hurt them. You had another fumble. Like he didn't turn the ball over. It's the running game, which Harris is really good. And I think Rondre Stevenson had a tough fumble, but he's another X factor the Patriots can use in the run game. But I agree. He played well. I think he was better than Tua for sure. If I look at the two quarterbacks, I would rather take Mac from just looking at that game tape. But what'd you make of your Patriots in a game where they had opportunities to win it? Miami, defense still can win games. Xavier Howard, one of the best corners in football, gets a fumble late, and Miami sneaks away with a big road victory.
Yeah, it's tough because it's absolutely a game that the Pats should have won. In my opinion, I thought they were the better team. I guess at the end of the day, the better team is the one that won if you want to go that route. But I thought New England controlled play. I'm pretty sure they controlled the time of possession and all that. But it's bad penalties and a couple bad turnovers. But the defense, the front seven, there was a lot of talk about how good they were. I don't think they had their best performance on Sunday. They weren't really getting to Tua. No, Tua, I'd be concerned with Tua if I was a Dolphins fan. Him throwing the ball downfield doesn't look great. Most of his completions were kind of, their screens are quick throws on slant routes or whatever.
Yeah.
But for the Pats, I mean, obviously the hope is I think they still have the ability and the talent on the roster to make the playoffs and maybe sneak in a win here and there. I'm not gonna start the parade route or anything like that. I'm a little bit realistic there. I think they still have some work to do. Like I said, I expected more of that defense front seven, and I think they still have the talent to bring it a little better. Obviously the receiver depth was just never there. The tight ends I thought looked good. It was nice to finally see a tight end catch a ball again in New England. So I thought they looked good for considering the result, and it was a loss. I thought it was about as good as they could have looked.
Yeah, 18 catches from tight ends last year, and I think they had 6 on Sunday. So you're already, almost halfway there just through one game. But yeah, I agree. I think Mac looked good. The team, obviously, you can't turn the ball over, and that kills you, and that'll cost you games. But I think they'll learn. They'll get better as the season goes on. When it comes to your point about Tua, I don't know, Ben, if it's a lefty quarterback, but it just doesn't sit well with me. When he throws the ball, it's just so unorthodox. And if he was to throw a 50-yard bomb, I don't know if it would get there. His slants to Devontae look good. He throws it nice, tight spiral, but that's an 8 to 10 yard route. I just, as a lefty throwing a deep ball, I just don't think he's Steve Young, I think Steve can pull it off. I just don't see it from Tua yet. Obviously you got to be patient if you're a Dolphins fan and you're happy you get a road victory, but I'm not sold on old TT yet.
The lefty thing is so accurate and so true. It just doesn't look right. But the thing is, for whatever reason in college football, it's not quite as bad. I'm thinking, who's the UCF guy? I think Dylan Gabriel's his name. He's a lefty.
Yeah.
That guy throws deep balls all day, and it looks so nice. And even Tua, obviously in college, he's throwing bombs, and it looks so nice. But yeah, for whatever reason, it seemed, I don't know if it's a Jamar Chase thing with the no white stripes on the ball. It just doesn't look as nice in the lefty. But yeah, I agree. I don't know if he could make that 50-yard throw. It just looks weird.
Yeah, and obviously you got to be patient. I think Dolphins really are in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, but he's got to deal with his legal issues and basically redshirt this season. But your Pats, now, I think they can take the division myself. I thought the Bills would take a step back before the season. I said that on a preview pod I did, and week 1 sure didn't put me a lot of confidence in the Bills. They played god awful, and Josh Allen looked like rookie Josh Allen in that game. But do you think New England can win the AFC East this year?
I like hearing you say that because I was pretty high coming in on the Bills this year, and to me it's still the Bills' division to lose. I was high on them coming in. I thought Josh Allen would just continue to get better, but like you said on the weekend, he didn't look great. The accuracy was the issue, which it's always kind of been with him. And the defense I think maybe is a bit overrated in Buffalo. That being said, I still do think it's the Bills' division to lose. I think New England and Miami can make them earn it for sure and challenge them. Obviously, being a homer, I would love New England to take it, but to me, anyways, it's still Buffalo's to lose.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it'll be a good division. I think you'll talk about the NFC West later and just how loaded that is. But I think there's 3 legitimate teams that you could say are going to the playoffs. The Jets are still the Jets. I think they will get better. I don't think they'll be a walkover this year, but they got their problems. Your Patriots play the aforementioned Jets this weekend. How do you feel about that matchup?
It's the Jets. I feel great until the Jets prove otherwise. Anytime they're on the schedule, you chalk it up as a win, and that's how I'm looking up this game, especially coming off a loss and the way we lost it. I know that won't sit happy with the fellas and Big Bill, so they'll make the necessary adjustments, and I think I hope anyways that they walk over the Jets. Zach Wilson made some plays
Played good
the
in the
other
second
night.
half.
Yeah, but for the most part, didn't do anything to impress me. Not to say I don't think he'll be a good quarterback. I do think he has the tools to be a good one, but week 2 in his NFL career, I think we should steamroll them.
Yeah, Matt Judon, and there's no Mekhi Becton, who might be the best left tackle in football. So put Judon on that side and get a backup tackle and just feast. Blitz, and that's what I would do against Will. You get a young quarterback, blitz, make him look at different looks all day. What would you say that spread is?
I'm pretty sure I've already. Oh, I thought I looked this up. Was it 6.5?
It's actually knocked down to 5.5 for New England. Well, I'd take New England.
I'm taking New England. I took them last week and that didn't work out well, but you got to ride with the home team, the good team.
The Dolphins, two division matchups this weekend. You got the Bills heading to Miami. So they're coming off a really, terrible loss. Like you said, Miami snuck out a victory in New England. This is a good, sneaky good game this weekend as well. It's a 2:00 start. Huge game for the Bills, in my opinion, because Miami can lose this game. Well, it would hurt because they're at home, in the division, but they already got a division road win on their schedule. The Bills are 0-1. Like, this one's kind of reminds me of the Packers game this week for the Bills. Your expectations are Super Bowl. They need to win this game just in Miami this week.
I think it's an absolute statement game for the Bills, and I expect them to come out and roll Miami just because of that. Like you said, a lot of people had them as the favorite to get out of the AFC, and they have not shown that so far. So I think they come out and make a statement. I think Josh Allen looks fantastic. For whatever reason, I just don't like playing in Miami. And obviously the weather is a good advantage for Miami. They practice down there. They're used to the heat, but I just that crowd, I don't know if it's just my bias, but I feel like it's not quite, they don't have that same home field advantage as a lot of teams do. So I'm looking for the Bills to come down and make a statement this week. And Miami, I know they won the game, but there wasn't a lot that impressed me really, other than a couple of their defensive players.
No, yeah, I mean, I love Xavier's one of the best players in football, but offensively, Devontae Parker. But again, quarterback is huge. Gaskin's a good player. I like how they use Jalen Waddle. I think I would have rather taken Devontae Smith if I had to pick. But, Waddle's a good player too. I liked how they used him in motion. But yeah, they still need to. This is a big game for Miami too, though. If they go start 2-0 with 2 division wins against New England and Buffalo, I mean, that you're putting yourself on the map. That's not, those aren't fluke. You're 2-0 and 2-0 in the division. That's a hell of a start to the season.
I completely agree. It's kind of the same boat as Vegas. Like if they can go down, make a statement, win again, they'll absolutely turn some heads, and overreaction Monday will be fun if both of those things happen.
What do you think the spread is? Bills at Dolphins.
Because Bills are on the road, 5.5 again. Buffalo
3.5.
3.5. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, interesting spread there for sure. We'll get to NFC West, but I'm looking at the spreads here, looking at some games. Well, this is NFC West. We'll hop into it. San Francisco. We'll start with them in the loaded NFC West. They played against Detroit this past weekend. They snuck away with a victory, the huge lead. They kind of fell asleep for a while. Deebo Samuel with a late fumble, and Jared Goff nearly rallied, but he plays for the Lions, so close but not close enough. San Francisco, pretty good team. Arizona destroyed the Tennessee Titans, which might have been the most impressive victory of the weekend. You could maybe say the Saints. You had the Rams with Matthew Stafford's first start. He looked phenomenal. And Seattle, where Russell Wilson was near perfect as well in Indy. That was another really impressive victory. Of the 4, which was the most impressive to you?
Like you said, the division is absolutely loaded, and you could make an argument for really all four of those teams to win it if you really wanted to. But yeah, I think like you said, I think the most impressive win was Arizona over Tennessee. Tennessee, they're a good team on paper. A lot of people have had decent hopes for them going into the year. Tannehill and Derrick Henry, and they added Julio, of course, too. So I think that was a pretty good statement win for Arizona. I know Cliff Kingsbury there's been some talk of him, like, you got to figure out soon, buddy. Like, you've had a couple years now. You need to start showing us something. Kyler, he's always fun to watch. He's kind of in that Lamar category, and when the game's on, you want to watch him play because he's always going to do something exciting. And the defense, Arizona's defense, I mean, Chandler Jones, have a day, man, like 5 sacks. So they looked awesome. So I think it was a great win for Arizona. All four teams won, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think out of the four, Arizona was probably the biggest win, just because they're probably maybe a tier below the other teams in the division, but they're showing that, hey, we can compete too.
Yeah, I love seeing Kyler throw from the pocket. You know, that's the biggest thing he had to improve on. Is we know he can run, he can throw on the run, but just stand in the pocket and throw the ball. And he did that. You know, hooked up with Christian Kirk down the sideline. D Hop, you know, I still think he's the best receiver in football. I mean, for one game, I'll take him over anybody. And you mentioned Chandler Jones, missed all last year. Just says, I was out with an Achilles injury. I don't care. Comes back with 5 sacks. Just Taylor Lewan made him reconsider his profession. JJ Watt is in there, but I would say Arizona, just based on their competition. You know, I think Tennessee was better than any other team. You know, Indy's good too, but Stafford was impressive, and I like the Rams quite a bit. I do think they could go to the Super Bowl if things work out right for this team. But I look at the Rams. I like their play action, the bootlegs with Stafford throwing the ball. Did you watch the game Sunday night? I love watching what they're doing with Jalen Ramsey and just letting him play. Like he's so fun to watch, and I just love seeing some of the creative ways they're using their defense.
Yeah, when you have a gifted player like he obviously is, you have the freedom to do some of those things. And like you said, it is fun to watch. And I was very high on the Rams last year, and it obviously didn't work out incredibly well. But again, I'm super high on the Rams. I'd probably have them as my favorite in the NFC. And Stafford, like you said, he looked incredible. He's been, I don't know if underrated is quite the right word. He just doesn't really get the shine playing in Detroit because he's been on dog shit teams throughout his whole career. So it's nice to see him finally get some of the love he deserves. And he looked good. The offense looked good. The running game, they don't have any stars back there, but I think the more that they can run the ball, it'll just obviously help the whole offense in the end. But it comes down to the defense. Like you said, Jalen Ramsey, a stud. They got freedom to do with what they want with him. And you still have the big boy Aaron Donald on that line. And he is showing no signs of slowing down. So I like them in the NFC. I'm very high on the Rams.
Yeah, he's so good that people don't even realize how good he is, because it's like, oh, he doesn't have a sack tonight. Well, the other guy next to him has 2. Yeah. Why do you think that guy has 2 sacks? Because Aaron Donald's getting triple teamed. Like, he's that much of a physical force. And I hear pundits just say, oh, he's not that good. Oh, okay. Well, go try to block him.
The box score isn't everything. It's so true.
Exactly.
And he helps with getting so much pressure, whether it's him or the guys around him, that you can drop more guys into coverage and you're still getting that pressure on the quarterback quick, which I mean, it's like you said, you don't see it in the box score, but the guy's a beast.
Yeah. Oh, just a massive force. And do you like San Francisco? To me, after week 1, again, it's only week 1, but they're 4th right now for me in this division. I had them higher prior, but I do like the Rams still number 1. That didn't change. Seattle, and I'd probably still put Seattle too, because I've seen them do it more. You know, they're just so consistent. They make the play. Russell Wilson doesn't have losing seasons. He always seems to make the playoffs. But San Francisco quarterback quandary, but not really, because Jimmy G is still there. I don't like the uncertainty and having 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out. And that seems what Kyle Shanahan's doing when he puts, Trey Lance on the field for specific plays.
Yeah, I've always found that kind of the quarterback tandem thing a bit weird. If you have a guy, ride him out, and if you don't like him, then make the switch like full time. I'm not a huge fan of like the gimmicky put a QB in for certain plays type thing. But hey, I mean, if it works, I guess. But yeah, the big question with San Fran is they were finally healthy this year coming into this year. It sucks that Mostert is already out for the year. That's a big loss. But I'm kind of with you in that they're the fourth team in this division. And I think ultimately what that comes down to is simply the quarterback. I think you can make a case the rest of their team is solid, good defense. Nick Bosa's back, which is obviously huge for them. But at the end of the day, they have the fourth best quarterback in that division. Right. And I think that's maybe going to be the sort of the deciding factor in a lot of the games played within the division.
Yeah, you could say they have 2 defensive players in Fred Warner and, like you just said, Nick Bosa, who are better than any player they have on offense, which is concerning because, again, I like Jimmy Garoppolo. He's 25-8, I believe, as a starter. So he wins games.
That's wild.
Yeah, I know. It's a crazy statistic, but he'll either get injured this year or they'll make a change. And I don't know if Trey Lance is ready to play or not. I haven't seen that much from him. He hasn't played that much football in the last couple of years, but it's very telling to me that they get to the red zone on their first drive of the season and they put him in there to throw a touchdown pass. Like why did he have to come in to do that? Jimmy couldn't have thrown a 5-yard touchdown. Jimmy played really well. It just smelled to me. I'm like, it isn't the Justin Fields, Andy Dalton, which I think is a no-brainer, but I'm just kind of like, okay, Kyle, why his first play of the game is a 5-yard touchdown pass when Jimmy ran the whole drive?
No, I completely agree. And like you said, it's a way different situation than the other one you just mentioned. Lance, what he played one game last year, if that, and he's played against like FBS teams. There's nothing against them, but it's just not obviously as good of talent. So I can understand that like transition period where you're letting them play against NFL defenses in practice and whatnot. But yeah, it is weird. It's like, yeah, Jimmy played fine. Why are we yanking him? And a guy like Jimmy seems like a pretty ultimate professional. He's never going to come out and say like, hey, what are we doing here? That's kind of weird. Like, give me a little bit of respect here. But you got to think it's kind of on his mind and it's got to be a little frustrating for him, right? Like,
I think it is for sure. And yeah, he just seems like a laid back guy. He'll never say it, but I would hate it. You run the whole drive and then, you do all the work and somebody comes in and writes their name at the top and you're second on getting your degree or whatever. Like that doesn't sit well with me. But this weekend, San Francisco, and before I wouldn't have said this is an easy game, but the Eagles looked good last week. Obviously they played Atlanta, who are, oh God, but Jalen Hurts looked good. The offense looked smooth. They only allowed 6 points. San Fran at the Eagles. Do you think that could be a sneaky upset game for Philly at home?
Based on what we've seen, I know it's been one game, but based on that game, yeah, like Philly, I didn't expect much of them. I honestly, I stayed away from that game from a gambling perspective because Atlanta and really Philly too, you don't really know what the heck's going to happen. But Atlanta was terrible. So I think this will be a good test game for Philly to see how good they really were. Because I think I just think Atlanta, you can't use them as much of a measuring stick. They're just that bad. So I think I like San Fran in this game. I think Philly can keep it close, but I do think it'll be a great test for Philly to see how good they actually are. So I wasn't really huge on Jalen Hurts, but man, he keeps proving me wrong. So good for him.
Yeah, they got good weapons. Like they got a great offensive line, and Brooks and Lane Johnson and Kelsey are all healthy. Miles Sanders isn't a bad running back. They still got Ertz and Goddard, Devontae Smith. So they have better weapons than they have in the past couple of years. And yeah, this is a huge game for Hurts. If you can go up against Fred Warner, who's one of the smartest defensive players in the NFL, Bosa, if they can protect him, this would tell us a lot about his future. And what do you think the line is for this game? San Francisco at the Eagles.
I would expect it to be close. I would say San Fran minus 2.5.
3.5.
3. Okay.
Yeah. Close game there. We'll go down to division for just betting for fun. Tennessee coming off that terrible loss that we mentioned at Seattle. Talk about a tough start for Tennessee. Get Arizona, then Seattle. Seattle home opener fans, obviously they're one of the toughest places to play. What do you think the line is for that game?
I would put it 6.5, minus 6.5 for Seattle.
4.5 Seattle.
Wow, I'm way off today. I guess that's not way off, but Russell Wilson early in the year too. I mean,
yeah, he's
always an MVP guy for the first 7 weeks of the year before he starts falling off. So I like Seattle there.
Yeah, that might be an interesting betting game there to see. I don't.
But yeah, you got to expect Tennessee is gonna come out and with a better effort than they gave against Arizona. They're not going to lay a complete egg 2 weeks in a row. They're too good, I think.
I agree. I think they got to at least show some fight, because last week there was just they got to run the ball early. They can't, get behind by that much, because then they can't run the ball. And then I think Tannehill's really good, but you want to have both sides, both running and passing working. Rams at Colts. Another tough schedule for the Colts as well.
Well, I'm going to say that one is Rams 4.5, minus 4.5.
That's a good guy. Yeah, 4. So you're right there.
There we go. And that's another one. It's that home field advantage, I feel like always plays into the line quite a bit, because I think the Rams steamroll them, but what do I know? I'll lose money on it.
No, I mean, the good thing though is the Rams are playing in another dome. So, they're used to playing in a dome. So they go to Indy, you're not going to get any inclement weather. And Carson Wentz, not exactly the most mentally strong quarterback in the history of the league. So that bodes well for the Rams.
Yeah. Are you on what side are you on with Carson Wentz? Do you like him or not? Because I think at this point, he's kind of is what we see he is, and he's not that good yet.
Yeah, I would say he's a mix of the MVP season and his lowest lows. I don't think he's as bad as he was last year in Philly, but I don't think he's the second overall pick in a draft type quarterback. I thought he played okay. I watched a lot of that game last week against Seattle on Game Pass. Shout out. Love the game. Thank God. I can't believe I haven't bought Game Pass before, but never going back now. But I thought he played okay. The O-line really didn't do him any favors, but he's such a polarizing guy, because he's kind of like Kirk Cousins, because people love these analysts they get horny for Carson Wentz. It's like Kirk Cousins, like you like that, like they love talking about those two guys. Really get a lot of fanfare.
Oh, it's so true, so true.
But yeah, I think he's like Derek Carr. Yeah, I think he's in that category. I would say Derek Carr's slightly better than him right now, but Carr, Cousins, Wentz, I think they're all in the same type category.
You mentioned the Dome Stadium too. Sorry, this is a little off topic, but that stadium in LA and the stadium in Vegas, oh my goodness, those are nice. And they look fast too. Like, I don't know, it's just eyeballs, but guys look like they're just running faster in those stadiums. They're so nice.
They're unbelievable. That's I'm like, I gotta get out there for a game. One of those. Have you been to an NFL game? I feel like you have.
I've been in Foxborough and Detroit. Yeah. So
polar opposites.
I mean, yeah. Yes. My dad is a big Lions fan, and I thank God every day that when I was 7 years old, I jumped on the New England bandwagon and didn't roll Detroit, because that would be miserable being a Lions and Blue Jackets fan. Life would get very miserable.
Yeah, if you only like the Orioles, and that would be the trifecta of just failure. But yeah, your poor father. I have Adam who comes on the podcast. He loves the Lions too, and his wife loves the Jets.
That's a miserable household right there.
You're racing for the first overall pick, basically. But cap off this division, you got Minnesota, Kirk Cousins at Arizona.
Yeah, I gotta lean Arizona on that one again, based off what we've seen so far. The Vikings they're just always mediocre. I don't know. They're just nothing stands out really about them ever, except for maybe Dalvin Cook every once in a while. But what's the spread there? Maybe Arizona 4.5,
3.5. I would take Arizona at home there. I'd take them to win, especially with that money line. I don't trust Minnesota at all. But yeah, interesting. Minnesota played Cincinnati last week, and we just met, Cincinnati wins the game in overtime. What a play by Joe Burrow on 4th and inches, calls an audible and throws a ball to Azuma up the pipe for a big gain. They end up winning the game in overtime. Cincinnati, again, it's one game. It's probably the biggest overreaction I had of the week, but I like Joe Burrow, and I think he's a great quarterback. And their offensive line wasn't great, but it wasn't pathetic either. And I think they look pretty good, and they beat a competent. They didn't beat a world beaters, but they beat a competent team on Sunday.
I agree. It was so nice to see just Joe Burrow back on the field after the injury, of course. So it's nice to see him. I didn't catch a ton of this game. Just looking at the box score, though, it seemed like early they were maybe trying to protect him a little. I just remember looking at the box score, and he didn't have a ton of pass attempts. So it's almost like they're trying to ease him back into it. But then he made like some beautiful throws. Obviously, the touchdown pass to Chase early in the game, and like you said, that audible call was like, he's a smart guy, so it's not surprising. But it was nice to see him back on the field. And you're right with the O-line. It's nice to see them just like, let's keep Joe Burrow alive here.
That should be their goal this year. We mentioned how tough a division they're in, but be competitive, maybe get a win in that division this year, and just don't protect him. Like, they did it to Carson Palmer. They did it to Joe Burrow. Like, just protect the guy, please, like, so you can have a future at quarterback. But this week they play the Bears, which is interesting because it's in Chicago. So the Bears, we'll get to that money line in a minute. But the Bears have Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton, I don't know many people that like him as a quarterback, probably his parents. But to me, this is so simple. Justin Fields should be playing. And the offensive line isn't great, but is it going to be better in 6 weeks? I don't think so. So if they're going to start, like 2 and 3, and then they switch to him, I don't know why you don't just go to the better option now, and you at least have a better chance of being competitive and being a potential playoff team this year.
I'm with you. It's a no-brainer. Like, what are you doing over there, Matt Nagy? In a way, I do sort of feel bad. I don't know why I'm getting soft in old age, but I feel bad for Andy Dalton because just like nobody likes him. Nobody in Chicago is rooting for that guy. They want him out there ASAP. So in a way, I do feel bad for him, but it's like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. Like, what are we doing? Andy Dalton, he doesn't throw the ball past 10 yards down the field. See what you have in field. I've always been a guy, I believe, like, put the rookie QB in. People always reference Rodgers and Brady, how they sat on the bench for a bit, but the situations, you got to look at the situation, right? It's so much different. Rodgers was behind Favre, and you're not just going to bench Brett Favre. And Brady was 199th overall pick, and they had what they thought was the franchise QB in Bledsoe at the time. So the situations are so much different. Andy Dalton, like,
he was a backup quarterback last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, I don't care if you give a guy a guarantee or not. Like, it's Andy freaking Dalton. Who cares? Get over it. Like, it's not like he's done anything in this league that's spectacular. And it would be nice to see Burrow versus Fields, the two Ohio State quarterbacks. Burrow had to transfer from Ohio State because Fields beat him up for the job, and then oddly enough, Burrow and them beat Justin Fields on the way to a national championship. But yeah, Chicago, I think Cincinnati could win this game this week, and I think it could be a 2-0 and a crazy start to the season.
I'm with you there. Chicago, like the one staple that they always have is like their defense is always a
Yeah.
rock. But this year, I don't know if they're really as good as they've been in past years. Khalil Mack, he's still good. I'd still take him on my team but for what he's getting paid, I don't know if he's quite worth that anymore. He's slowed down a bit. They're still like their defense isn't, I wouldn't call them bad by any means, but they're not the Chicago Bears defense like we've seen in the past. And I think they'll get exposed quite a bit this year. And I think Chicago's just not a very good team, honestly.
Yeah, it's a pick 'em. You got just a 3 point. So that's basically a pick 'em game. And I like what I saw more from Cincinnati in week 1 than I did the Bears, because it was close in the first half, but after that was they lose by 20 and the Lions really took the game away. Interesting to see what Cincinnati is used to playing outdoors, so it's not like Chicago is freezing in September. Be different if it was November. But looking this weekend, what's the must-watch game for you? What's the game where you're like, okay, I want to sit down and kind of focus in on this game?
Yeah. So when you sent me this talking point, I started looking through the games, and it's interesting. There wasn't like through the first glance, I'm like, there's nothing that really just pops off. Obviously, there's a Sunday nighter where you got Lamar versus Mahomes, which is obviously going to draw eyes with just those two names. But like we discussed earlier, I think that one could get ugly fast. The game that maybe is not the most eye-popping game, but to me, it's one of the more intriguing games is New Orleans versus Carolina.
I can't believe you said that, because that's mine.
Oh, there you go. Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
But both those teams coming off a win in week 1. They were kind of an unknown coming into the season. Obviously, Carolina, you got Christian McCaffrey back, and I think as long as you can keep him healthy, that you have a fighting chance in most games. New Orleans, like, talk about a big question mark with Jameis. You had absolutely no clue what you were going to get. So I'm very interested in that game to see if either of those teams come out looking spectacular, if one shows that maybe they're a bit of a pretender from week 1. I'm interested in that game.
Yeah, that no lie, that was my game as well. I just said I never would have thought this after week 1, but I'm just, this is interesting. I want to, the more Jameis plays well, the more interesting that team gets, because they're a good team. Like Lattimore hopefully will play. He did break his thumb, but it sounds like he's going to. Marcus Williams is great on the back end. They still have competent players, and Jameis he's interesting. What's interesting to me is he looks quicker. Like, he's still big, but he can run the football now. I think he lost some weight, and he saw him scramble 3 times for first downs. I like Jameis doing his thing as well.
You're right. That New Orleans team, they're good. I mean, they were in the playoffs last year with a Drew Brees who couldn't.
Yeah, he couldn't throw. And we lost Benny here. He froze up. But yeah, I think leading off his point, Drew Brees couldn't throw the football. And too often he was checking down, and he couldn't throw the ball down the field. He had receivers that could go, Jared Cook, these type guys, but it just didn't work. So I want to see Sam Darnold as well. Darnold is a guy in the Jets who they just gave up on. And he's a guy that is a USC former 3rd overall pick at quarterback. And Benny's back here. But
sorry, I lost you there.
No problem. Darnold, I think the Jets gave up on him. And that's typical Jets. But Matt Rule, he's being hyped up as a great coach. You got Joe Brady from LSU. So Darnold interests me too, because they got some good players for him to play around with as well.
Yeah, I love the revenge game for Darnold last week. I thought he looked pretty good. And I mean, with that team, when in doubt, you dump it to Christian. And he's shown time and time again he'll do things when he has the ball. So.
Yeah, if I had to pick one other one, just because boring if we have the same game. Obviously, you said the Sunday Nighters is interesting. Cowboys Chargers is another one.
That was my number 2 too,
John. Dak looked great in week 1. And they almost upset Tampa Bay. And Justin Herbert's a stud with Keenan Allen, and it's in SoFi, so you get to see that beautiful stadium again. But I want to see how the Cowboys respond to, it'll been the first game in 10 days because they played Thursday night, and they're still on the road. So just to see how the boys respond. And Michael Gallup is out for a couple weeks. He's injured. They lost their right tackle for a few weeks because of a drug problem. And I just want to see how Dak continues to evolve and if they can get that running game going. Zeke was a non-factor in week 1.
They have a big Zeke problem, I would say, because I know you're never going to do it because of what you're paying Zeke, but I'd be interested to see how Pollard would look if you use him as the running back 1 for a game, just to kind of see what the kind of comparison would be like. Because Zeke, you're paying him a lot, and he's got to do a heck of a lot more than he did last week because he didn't look great. So that's a problem I think that they're going to have in the coming years with what they're paying him. But I like this game too. I think it'll be cool to see how Herbert continues to do. He's a fun quarterback to watch too.
Yeah.
The San Diego, I still do it.
They're still San Diego.
Yeah. That defense, they got a couple fun guys to watch on defense too. Derwin James is back healthy, and the other Bosa brothers. So I think that'll be a good game too.
Yeah, it's a 5:30 game, so that'll be a good one to watch on CBS on Sunday. Some more spreads.
CBS is doing that. Sorry to interrupt you. CBS is doing a Cowboys game.
I know.
That's wild.
But I guess Chargers. Yeah, it's on. Cowboys Chargers. What do you think that line is?
It's got to be another close one. I'd maybe say, because it's in LA, I would say them 2.5.
Bang on.
Yeah, there we go.
Bang on the money. There are some big spreads this week. Houston at Cleveland. What do you think that number is?
9.5 for Cleveland.
12.5.
Wow.
Houston coming off a victory.
Yeah, a decisive victory too against Jacksonville. Yeah. I think Tyrod he is what he is. I don't expect them to do much, but I think they can sneaky.
I think they can
good cover
that.
team. Be a good cover team. They're not going to win a ton of games.
Over.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see some other big numbers here. Falcons at the Bucks.
Oh, that's another one. I'll guess the same thing. 12.5.
It's 11.5. I thought.
Okay, similar.
That should be 12.5.
That's what I was thinking. I think that's.
Oh God.
That's almost more of a mismatch than the other one. I feel like, but.
And this last one, for the biggest spread of the week, surprises me. Green Bay is 11.5 point favorite against Detroit on Monday night.
Oof, after what we just saw, that is.
It's a big number.
I was on the train. I'm not sure where you were with this, but I thought A-Raj was going to come out with something to prove and looked really good after all the offseason drama and all that. I thought he was going to come out on a man on a mission, but he was anything but that. And really, the whole team wasn't good. So you can't put all on him, of course, but it'll be real interesting to see how they look this week. You're
lucky you're playing Detroit, but this is also, if you lose this game, the panic meter is going to be at 100 after this game, because you can't lose back-to-back games. You lose at home to Detroit. That would be I expect Aaron to come back. I don't like how lackadaisical he is. He's so zen and
it's new man bun era.
Yeah, the man bun. He's all cool vibes, bro. And I don't know, but. Interesting. That's an interesting game on Monday night, and
Detroit's low key feisty too. They kind of. I think it's the new coach.
Dan
he's
Campbell.
Got that bite to him. What's he say? Bite kneecaps or
he bites kneecaps off. And, he's an interesting cat. That's for sure. But I like that their fight on Sunday. They didn't give up, so I'll give them that. Jared Goff, I think, wants to play well and maybe get onto a team that's competent if he can show that he can play some good football. Before we wrap tonight, tomorrow night, Washington football team hosts the New York Football Giants. So NFC East game. Ryan Fitzpatrick's out 6 to 8 weeks with a hip injury. So in steps in Taylor Heineke against Daniel Jones, who continues, the Giants just got blown out by Denver in week 1. But preview this one for us. What do you expect tomorrow night?
Well, I'll just start by saying last week we were treated to a great Thursday night football game, and tomorrow maybe they surprise us, but on paper anyways, it's not the most exciting matchup in the world. Yeah. That being said, like Thursday night football in my head, I'm like AFC South, NFC East, like bad football on Thursday night. Right. So it kind of fits right in. But no, back to the actual game. It does suck that Fitzmagic is out for a good chunk of time early. Taylor Heineke, he's a fine backup. I think he's good enough to win games. On the other side, Danny Jones. I mean, we talk about Lamar's fumble problems. This guy can't hold on to the football to save his life. And ultimately, I think that'll be the difference. That Washington defense they're very good. I like them a lot. And I think ultimately they'll cause the turnover, Mr. Turnover, Daniel Jones to into some bad plays, and that'll be the difference in the game. So I like Washington tomorrow night.
Yeah, I would go with Washington. Dave Gettleman's got to be just worried. He drafted Jones with a surprising pick at 6, and it hasn't worked out. He continues to turn the ball over. Saquon Barkley would worry me too, because he just shows nothing. He's had some tough injuries, but he's a guy who will run for a 90-yard run, and then the rest of the game he'll do 15 carries for 14 yards. He's just not. I don't like him consistently as a runner. His O-lines haven't been great either, but yeah, I think Chase Young didn't have a great week 1. I think he'll want to come out and make a statement. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get 2.5 sacks tomorrow. Sweat, Allen, Payne, those guys will want to feast tomorrow night. And it's Heineke's the guy. You got Kyle Allen behind him, but it kind of tells me something, Benny, that Ron Rivera had Cam for a long period of time, and he doesn't even seem like he's considering it right now in Washington.
No, that's a good point, and I never even really put that together, but it is true. I think maybe it's the end of the line for Cam, but I mean, Heineke played in the playoff game last year, right?
He almost beat
yeah,
the Bucs.
that's what I was gonna say. So that's kind of what I have fresh in my mind. I'm like, oh, this guy, like, he can do some stuff. Like, honestly, if you given me him or Daniel Jones tomorrow night,
I'll take Heineke.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. So, and Saquon, like you said, he's the guy you take in fantasy each year. Like, you're like, oh yeah, this is the year he's finally going to put it together. And I know he's had some injury problems too, but he just can't seem to figure it out. And obviously the O-line, like you said, hasn't been great either. Nate Solder, he's on the Taylor Lewan train too. He's not great either. So, yeah, so we'll see how it goes tomorrow.
In a couple, week 4, it's Bucs Patriots. I'll have to have Ed back on that week so we can talk about that game in depth. But who are you rooting for, the Pats that Sunday night, or Tom Brady?
No, I'm Pats first, Brady second. So I will be rooting for Mr. Mac Jones and the boys, but that'll be a fun one. I wonder what the ticket prices are to that game.
It's got to be Super Bowl level.
Oh, it's an arm and a leg, but it's exciting, that's for sure. But
yeah, I'm excited for that one, week 4, and we'll be in contact before that game. Maybe we'll do another pod that week and talk about that game and everything else. But no, good luck to your Spartans this weekend. And as always, Ben, it's great having you back on, and we'll have to do this many more times throughout the season. Sounds good. Thanks, Jug. Go green. Yeah. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a great night and enjoy week 2. We'll talk soon.